Also, we will welcome with us David. Good afternoon. David, are you with us?
Yes.
Good afternoon. Good. You heard Mr. Mohran maybe the last half an hour?
Yeah.
All right. So do you have any comments of what he said?
No, I'm waiting for him to finish the story.
Oh, all right. So you feel free to enter in and out if you needed to, or if you have other questions for him. So feel free to enter in and out with us.
Okay.
Okay? So I'll go back to Mr. Mohran again. Now, you took the plane, you landed in Amsterdam, you have your first experience with the Western world, yes. The corrupt Western world. Then, what's next?
Well, I finally made it to the United States.
Yes.
And fortunately, my father had a friend who had a son there, been there for a few years in Missouri. And he picked me up and he took me in and he said, we've arranged that you stay here and learn English for a while, and then you can take an ACT test and go to college and so forth.
So you went with Iranian friends when you arrived?
Iranian friends.
What state was that?
Missouri.
Missouri.
State of Missouri.
All right.
And so I went there and stayed with him for a couple of weeks, but then I told him, listen, I can't learn English living with you guys because everybody speaks Farsi. And he says, you're right, I'm sorry, we've been here a few years, but he said, I'll find you a family, an American family,
yes,
who would let you stay at their place. Maybe you pay them some rent and room and board, and you can learn English firsthand. And that was a great idea. And he did, and it was just a short time after that, and that was my first family, the first family of Americans. And it was very, very interesting. We met with him, and the man of the house, he was a teacher at the school, and then, of course, the lady of the house was a secretary at a Southern Baptist church.
Wow.
First, I didn't know what that was. I just knew it was a church.
First exposure.
Yes, first Christian I ever met in my life.
All right.
And then, of course, they had two children, one son about my age, one little girl. And I stayed with him in the basement, and I had my own quarters and everything. And I began to just course with them.
This is like a student exchange, or you're paying your own?
No, I'm paying my own.
Oh, so you're not coming with the government?
No,
all right.
No government. My father was supporting me.
Well-to-do, yes.
I had a 4-year visa as a student to be in the United States. So, and then they told me the first Sunday rolls over, and I remember I was praying Saturday night, and they interrupted me, and of course I got a little upset.
But in my background now, the revolution took place in Iran.
Yes, the revolution began when I came.
When you came, when the communication was cut between you and your father a lot, or you haven't communicated with him?
We still had communication at that time. It was off and on. It wasn't, I could call and we couldn't get through for a while. Letters would go and come.
All right.
There was no problem. Letters would go. But they were telling me that they're trying to keep away all the bad news, because they want him to continue. Because I told him, you want me to come back? I don't want you guys.
Yeah.
He said, no, everything's so far so good.
Oh, okay.
So he said, you go on, continue education.
Now you're in the Baptist family.
Now I'm in the Baptist family, and as I was praying, the lady came down and she interrupted me, and I tried to talk to her through my dictionaries, let her know that. As a Muslim, when I'm praying, a lady cannot interrupt, cannot come even in front of me or around me. Please respect that. And so she asked me, would you like to go to church with us? And I've never thought about that. Then I thought, yes, that would be interesting. I was young, and I thought, I'm here to learn. I'm here to learn the language. I'm here to learn the culture. And it's good to go see what the Christians are like. Even though, you hear stories when you grow up. But still, when you're young, you're willing to, experience it yourself.
Yes.
And I remember thinking that, I know church, as I was thinking about. I've seen a church. And then their son asked me, he said, where have you seen a church? In Iran? I said, no, we don't have any Christians in Iran. I never knew any. But I've seen a movie on TV called Little House on a Prairie. And in that, there was a church, and there was a priest, and they had people in there. And so that's my memory of church.
All right.
So then, of course, he laughed at me, and he said, you're in for a shock. So we went to church, and it was a huge church. There were several thousand people in there.
Wow.
It was, the steps just all the way to the huge door going in. It was nothing like what I saw on TV.
And prairie.
Yes. But I had my cultural shock. As we walked in, first thing I noticed, men and women were sitting together, and I wasn't quite ready for it.
So no.
No. So women should be out of here, sitting behind the other side, their own person. But it wasn't, and I said, well, these are different people.
Yeah.
And then they had me sit down, and next thing you know, they picked up their Bibles, and they handled them, and they start singing. Music started. That's another thing.
No.
Oh, no. I thought, man. But again, I told myself, hey, these are Christian people. They have the right to do what they want. I'm just making notes,
yeah.
mental note.
Yeah.
Mental note. And then, of course, then they picked up the Bibles. I thought they were Bibles, but they were hymn books. But I didn't know the difference at the time. They looked like, and they sing, they thumb through them, they sing out of them and everything.
Yes.
And I wasn't going to anticipate anything. I was just there to watch. And then, of course, then a young man who I didn't know at the time, but in church we call them youth pastors. He tapped me on the shoulder, and he took the young man with my family and I, and he took us to a little chapel on the side. And it was in that room was all young people sitting. A whole bunch of them sitting on a chair, and he put me in the front of them, and I thought because I'm a guest. I'm thinking, because as an Iranian, when you have a guest in Iran, we want to make sure that we give him the best. That's right. The hospitality is important. So I thought, well, this is neat. He wants to introduce me. And this is an area that they've hardly ever seen any Middle Eastern. I think I must have been one of the first Muslims, at least Iranians, they've seen, because he was in the rather rural area, a smaller community.
Yes.
And I sat there, and he took my dictionaries. And I explained to him that you can tell me what you want as long as you look at the English word and the Farsi is right in front of it. So he said, okay, get your pen and paper. I got it. He wanted to give me a message. So he works hard through it. And he gives me one word at a time.
Yeah.
And he reads, and he puts it together. As I write, and you are going to, and the last word, hell.
Woo!
And here I'm sitting in front of a whole bunch of the young people group. They're staring at me, not a word said from them. And he says that to me. And that's the first time I lost my cool. And I stood up, and I looked at him, and I said, Kafir, agar shamshiri dashtam sarato miboridam. I said, you telling a Muslim who came to your church and respected you, and respected the Isa al-Masih, Jesus Christ, that I'm going to hell? And I was just off.
Furious.
Furious. And of course, he looked at me, and everybody, they figured I wasn't happy. But that was my first experience.
I'm going to stop here. What advice do we give to Christians when they are contacted by Muslims like you in that time? I mean, that wasn't wise.
Of course not.
Okay. So what are the steps that you could take to avoid these kind of things as Christians now, reaching to Muslims?
Of course, I understand that was 30 years ago, 30 plus years ago.
But it's still
And in a smaller community, there was a lot of ignorance of Islam and Muslim people. They just didn't know.
Okay.
However, for anyone who's not even Muslim, anyone who's not even Muslim, even from if you're Protestant, if a Catholic visits you, the rule is the same.
Yes.
Is that you respect the person as who they are. And first of all, I would do my homework to know what this person believes in. And based on that, I would decide how to communicate with him.
Even if it's not a Muslim, you're telling him go to hell, you're going to make him mad.
That's right. And of course, the first thing would be I would get to know him. And I would ask him questions. Don't put him in front of a whole congregation and embarrass him like that. However, he was young and zealous. We have to give him that.
So you have to have wisdom. You not expose people and embarrass them in front of the people. Right. Okay.
And I don't believe today you'll see that as often. I don't know.
I don't know.
It's been 30 years or so. So there's a lot of Muslims in this country now, and they've made some inroads. So people more aware of them being here.
So maybe you thought to yourself, I'm not coming to church anymore.
That's right.
That's another point. We offend people, though we want them to come back, but then this time, said, okay, if this is Christianity, goodbye. Okay.
That was my first experience, and I didn't go after that. However, he must have thought, maybe he thought that's the only chance he's going to get.
Okay.
I don't know, but his approach, I would have fired him if I was a pastor of that church.